My name is Jeff Schroeder, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Land Acquisition and Planning for Ponderosa Homes. As my job entails everything from buying land, which can be pretty complicated, negotiating a purchase with a land seller, and then selecting a team of consultants, design consultants, civil engineers, architects, landscape architects, etc., putting together an application, submitting it to the city, and then getting the project entitled by the city council. That's a real simple look at it. It actually involves everything from market research. I have to know what the market is so I can figure out what the value of the property is. And I do that with a little financial tool called a pro forma. It's really quite simple. It's just algebra basically, but it's a Microsoft or an Excel spreadsheet that allows me to enter what I think the revenue or what I think a house would sell for. And then all the costs to build that house, including the vertical construction costs, the site development costs, all the city fees, the consultant costs, all the costs to sell the house, all our internal costs, and then basically how much, if any, profit we could make. And that helps me not only buy the property, but it helps me manage the process as we go through. And so that's a real simple look at it. It involves working with all these consultants, multiple meetings, putting together applications. The most important part is probably working with the neighbors, which quite frequently for Bay Area projects and in most cities, you're doing an infill property that already has homes or other businesses surrounding it possibly. And so you have to communicate with those people because you don't want them showing up at the city council meeting complaining about your project. So you really want to understand what the political environment is. You're going to meet with the neighbors, feel them out. That might help you decide what the project's going to look like or changes you might make to your plans. You're going to meet with the city planner staff. You're going to meet with, most importantly, your local city council people and let them know, and your planning commissioners as well, and kind of, hey, I've got this project, I've met with the neighbors, I'm bringing an application in, what do you think? Does it need a general plan amendment? What kind of entitlements are required? A lot of pathways to get to where I am. A lot of people that I work with come out of mostly you would need at least a college degree. Most people that start in my position have a college degree in various fields, but one of the ones that I run into people is a construction management degree. So they actually get into the home building through construction management or a business/real estate type of degree. So you don't need a graduate degree. I have a master's degree because I wasn't working in the industry and I wanted to be a planner, and so I got a degree in planning. A lot of people come actually also have planning degrees and work for cities and get that experience, and we've hired city planners to do planning and entitlement work for builders. So that's another route. Brokers, people who have negotiating experience, who've been brokers, or are interested in real estate through the brokerage side, it can also become involved or work for builders because of their brokerage background. So like negotiation skills are important. In my firm, we're a small firm, so I cover land acquisition, the negotiation part, and the planning and entitlement side. But in the bigger firms, some of the big builders, the big publicly traded firms, actually have separate positions for land acquisition and planning, but you can cross over either way. So you can go into a planning position and end up in an acquisition position because of your experience in the industry. So there are quite a few ways to get into the land entitlement and acquisition part of the business. One of the things that is really important, I think one of the most important things that you can take into the work world with you is attitude. I have, my boss has a little plaque, and this is something we share, but he has a plaque on his credenza that says, attitude is everything. And it really is. because I can take someone who has a little bit of experience, but a fantastic attitude, and turn them into the planner or acquisition person that they want and I need. And so that is so important, that you have a positive attitude, that you work hard, that you don't quit, that you don't let setbacks throw you off your track. And that will help you develop some of the other skills you need. But it's not, no work that's worth doing is easy. It's hard, and those challenges are what make it interesting. And so if your work is boring, you're not going to be interested, and you're not going to be motivated to do a good job. So you want to find something that is really interesting to you. Of course, when you get into the work world, not only having the right attitude, but showing up is really key. Doing the things that you say you're going to do is also a super important life skill to have. I mean, if you tell someone that you're going to do something, you better do it, because if you don't, they're not going to rely on you. They're not going to ask you to do that again. They're not going to bring you the next deal. They're not going to trust you to do what you say you're going to do. So that is such an important attitude skill to have.
One of the most important parts of my job is communication. Communicating with property owners, with city officials, elected officials, consultants, and with neighbors. And so I think it's an important skill that you should learn if you have a chance. Take a class in writing or communications, or you'll learn it on the job. And there's some good best practices that I use in my communication environment, whether it be texts, emails, phone calls, or letters. I make it a really important point to respond to every text and email and letter and inquiry I get from people that, other than spam, as you know, anything I get from a neighbor or city people, consultants. I get calls from property owners or from brokers that may be calling me about something I have no interest in, but they made the effort to call me. So I always either email or call them back, because you never know when you might find a new opportunity, or you can hear something from somebody like a neighbor that they wouldn't tell you otherwise, and you can learn things that are important in getting your job done. And so I always make an important point to respond to people. And then when I'm writing a letter, an email, or a text, I always make sure to read it over before I send it. Everybody's had that problem or mistake where they send something too soon, and it really is important to look over what you wrote, for spelling and punctuation, but also is it saying what you intended to say? Are you asking the question that you want to ask? And are you communicating in the appropriate way? Because you'll learn over time that you'll communicate differently with a city council person or a staff person versus a neighbor or a consultant. But I always try to be respectful, and I always try to think of I always try to open it up with something that's personal, like, hello, how are you? How's everything going? Instead of just going right to the point, because, it just shows that you're being a little more thoughtful. And everybody likes to have a chance to think about that instead of going right to the business point. It's less personal. So it makes it more personal. And, I think you'll pick up these skills over time, and you really appreciate as you read the things that you write, as you check them over again, and you think about who your audience is and how you want to approach them. It's a really important skill to practice and to get experience in. So if you have a chance to take a class in writing, or public speaking is another thing. It's a communication point that you don't want to have to learn at the podium, but it's a good place to learn. If you can get a job that's related to real estate, in working for a construction firm, even part-time, or a real estate office. If you can work in a real estate office, not only do you pick up the skills, but you pick up the connections with people that are in the business that you can use later on when you get into a full-time, or, if you're going to go to college and you want to follow a real estate or a construction related degree program like construction management I mentioned, or business and real estate or planning,
then look for the schools that you're interested in and look at the program. Look at who the professors are, find out about the program, talk to the professors. Maybe they have an alumni association. They can actually hook you up with people that have graduated with that program, and then you can talk to them about what their path has been and their experience has been. And when you're in college, you could continue, if you could find work in the business and make those contacts, because it's so much, we're a small actually world in our business. I mean, I meet the same people over and over again in different positions throughout my career, and having that contact database and those relationships will help you not only find work but advance your career when you're in the industry.